Welcome to the Visual Kitchen, gourmet design and development, our digital designer's kitchen brought to you by Silverlight. Today we're going to see the latest and greatest web design and development features from Microsoft's brand new release of the Expression suite of products, together with the power of the latest Silverlight platform. We have 3 master chefs from the Microsoft Expression product team with us today to whip up some delicious digital designs right here in the kitchen. But to keep our chefs honest and on their toes, we're pairing each one with an industry professional from our studio audience. So let's meet our teams. So first, help me welcome John Harris. Now, John, before we get started here, can you tell us a little bit about the Expression products and also what exactly is Silverlight?
Sure, absolutely. Expression is a range of products from Microsoft that enable user interface design for websites, web applications, and also Windows applications. And Silverlight is Microsoft's platform for delivering rich experiences on the web. One of the reasons we're concentrating on Silverlight today is we've just released a brand new version that's got some amazing new capabilities that we want to show to you guys.
So today we'll be building Silverlight content using the Expression tools. Have I got that right?
That's absolutely right. We'll be looking at Expression Blend, Sketchflow, Expression Web, and Expression Encoder. And we'll actually be running all of these Expression products on top of Windows 7. And in fact, Expression Studio 3 is the first Microsoft product to earn the Windows 7 compatibility logo. So that's, really great news. What we'll actually be doing with these products is we'll be designing and building a rich application for Microsoft Game Studios.
Well, John will be giving us a real taste for how Sketchflow can take you from rough sketch to working prototype, starting from scratch to whip up a quick but flavorful serving of interactive goodness. Sorry, John, I can't help it. It's a cooking show. And assisting John today will be...
Hi, I'm Daniel Chait. I'm Managing Director with Lab 49. Lab 49 is a consulting company that focuses on building advanced new applications in financial services.
Well, welcome to the show, Daniel. You can go ahead and join John. Next up from the Expression Blend team, we have Joanna Mason. And assisting Joanna today.
Hi, my name is Rick Barraza. I'm a Senior Experience Architect at Synergy. We're a rich internet application design and development firm.
Perfect. We're so glad to have you here today. Now, Rick, you and Joanne will be showing how Expression lets you bake in amazing functionality without writing code. And you'll also be taking the shopping cart functionality for a spin and cooking up some gameplay for dessert. And our final assistant is...
Hi, I'm Janine Warner, author of more than a dozen books about the internet and host of a series of training videos about Expression Web for Total Training. I also run my own web design training site at digitalfamily.com.
Oh, well, we're so glad to have you here, Janine. Today you'll be working with Ed Meadows from the Expression Web team.
Thanks, Tara.
Now together, the two of you will turn up the heat with some cool new cross-browser compatibility testing on the fly. Our teams are all set, and we have all the ingredients we need to whip up a gourmet design and development feast using the Expression products. We'll see you after this message from Silverlight.
You working late again? Dude, I hope you set your DVR. Battlestar, series finale, tonight.
Silverlight is all-inclusive.
It's a very quick install.
And once you've got Silverlight on your machine, you've unlocked a huge amount of power.
It allows designers and developers to work together from a common code base.
To bring enterprise-worthy applications to the web.
Using familiar languages and tools.
let's check in with our first two teams and see what they'll be cooking up for us. John, what's on your plate?
Well, we'll be using Sketchflow to rapidly produce an informal prototype for the shopping part of the application.
Perfect. And Joanna, how about you?
Well, once the prototypes are approved, we're going to make them real. But obviously, we'll do much more than that. While we're waiting, we'll work with the agency to collect and gather up all of the design assets that we're going to use in this project.
Sounds like a winning recipe. Well, teams, start cooking. I can't wait to see what John and Daniel do with that shopping cart.
Let's dive right in. Let's just literally start producing this prototype now. So up here you can see on my screen, this is my design area where I'll actually be laying out some controls and some of my screens in a few minutes' time. Down here at the bottom I have my Sketchflow map, and this is where we're actually laying out the flow of the application itself. So we're designing the log-on and checkout system for a shopping cart. So the first thing we actually need is to have a log-on screen, so I'll just change the name of that screen like so. Then, of course, we actually need to check the credentials, the password and the username. So we'll just create a second screen here, and we'll call this one the checking screen, like that. Obviously, if the username or password fails, we need to send that person to a failure screen. So we'll just add that one in down here, like so, and we could just call that failure. Now, I'm also just going to highlight this in a slightly different color, just to help that screen really stand out within this application flow. Red for failure seems a pretty good color to choose.
Agreed.
And obviously, the final thing we need to do is we really need to allow that person a second chance to log in if they've not logged in successfully the first time. So let's just join those two screens together. And already at this early stage, we're starting to get an idea of how the client will actually flow through the application. Obviously, the final thing we need to do is if the person successfully logs on, then they need to go through to the succeeded screen. So we can do that just by linking those screens together. Now, what you might not have realized is, even at this very early stage, this is actually a real application that we can show and demonstrate to our clients at any point in time.
Yeah, and John, the thing about, you mentioned it's a real application. The thing about that Sketchflow is you don't have to build a whole application in order to get the basic idea of how it works in terms of navigation. You can sketch out the initial flow of the application and then delve into only the details that you need to at the time you want to.
That's absolutely right, and that's exactly what we're doing here. We've literally created the flow of the application, but with no details yet. You could almost think of these screens we've just created as almost empty whiteboards, just waiting to have some additional content and context added to them. In fact, why don't we do that right now before we show this to our clients?
Perfect.
Okay, so the way we're going to add in some extra detail here is I'm going to come up to my asset panel here, and Sketchflow is actually providing me with a whole series of sketchy styles. What these allow me to do is really quickly produce a very informal prototype that we can demonstrate to our client. So the first thing I need to provide my client is obviously a text field here to actually type in their username. Let's add a password box as well. And then finally, I'll just add a couple of buttons. So there's the first one, and there's the second one. And just to help the client understand what these buttons do, let's just relabel those very quickly like that. So that can be my logon button, and that can be my cancel button. The final thing I want to do here is just really help these elements get grouped together and just jump off the screen a little bit. So I'm literally just going to draw a rectangle around them. Just give that a little bit of color. In fact, let's just make it a little bit gray, and then send that to the back, like so.
Now, those of you seeing this at home, don't adjust your monitor. There's nothing wrong with your screen. We're using this wiggly style here, and Sketchflow allows us to show our customers this kind of very sketchy style that doesn't really have any branding, any graphics, really any fonts, because at this point we want them focusing on the information and the layout, and we don't want them worrying about all the little visual details that we're going to add in later. So Sketchflow enables us to get them going on only what we want them to look at this time.
Absolutely, that's one of the key things about this. You don't want the clients focusing on the detail too early. But what you might not have realized is that even though these are sketchy in style, these are real components. So that's a real button, so I can actually make that button do something when I click on it. So what we're going to do here is I'm literally going to right-click on that button. I'm going to say, look, when we run this prototype in a few minutes' time, when you click on that button, go directly to the check-in screen. So we'll just select that, and that's done. So let's just carry on through the application flow here. Let's go to that check-in screen. Well, we haven't really got a lot of information to add to this screen at this point, so I'm literally just going to use a sticky note just to allow the client to understand what this screen's for. And really this screen is just working out if the person's password has succeeded or failed, so we just add in that information like that. And that's all we need to do at this stage. Let's move on to the succeeded screen. Obviously, you can see I've spent a little bit of time and laid out some elements here already. I just need to finish off the design here, though. And to do that, I'm going to add in a list box up in this empty area. Now, the thing with a list box is it doesn't really come to life until it gets some data. So let's see how easy it is to create some sample data within Sketchflow. So I'll literally come over to my data panel, just come up here and say define some new data and hit OK, and that's it. Within a couple of seconds, I've got some data and it's ready to use. And you can see by default, I've got a couple of data properties pre-made for me. Let's just see how easy it is to add a couple more. There we go, I've now got 4. And it's also very easy to actually go in and refine what data we're going to be using. So at the moment, I've got some lorem ipsum text, which is good for longer passages. But actually, I want to use some real data here, so I'm going to use people's names. For the second data property, well, let's use people's addresses. So I just choose that from the list. For the third data property, let's choose people's email addresses. And for the final one, let's choose people's phone numbers. Then to actually use this data in my prototype, well, I'll literally just pick it up, drag it, and drop it. And you see the list box just jumps into life. The final thing I want to do here, though, is I just want to provide a little bit... Yeah, sample data, it's just so powerful, so easy to use. It's also easy to edit as well. I just want to give that data just a little bit more space. So we're just going to come into here and literally I'm going to grab that last text field and just respace out the data slightly so we can start to make it look exactly how we want it to look. In fact, that the person's name up there, I actually want that to be a little bit more highlighted than everything else. So I'm literally just going to select it and hit bold, and then it just jumps out from the page a little bit more. So, you know, sample data, it's incredibly fast and easy to use and very flexible as well. The final screen we're going to look at is the checkout screen. So again, I've used a sticky note just to highlight to the client what this screen will look like a little bit later. I've also got the logout button on here as well. And what this is actually going to do is I'm going to set this so when you click on that, we go all the way back through the flow of the UI and end up back on the logon screen. So literally, I'm just going to do what we did before. I'm just going to right-click on that. So when we click that button, I want you to go all the way back to the logon screen.
And John, what we've just shown is when you set the logout button to send them all the way back to the logon screen, in the Sketchflow map, it updates that navigation in real time. So the Sketchflow map is not just a pretty picture, it's actually a real interactive two-way representation of the workflow of your application.
Absolutely. The Sketchflow map is one of the key areas of the Sketchflow piece. And we'll actually see that a little bit more as we go through some more of the demo in a few minutes' time. In fact, why don't we show this to the clients right now and see what it looks like. So the way we're going to look at this prototype now is we're going to actually look at it inside the Sketchflow player. The Sketchflow player is actually created as part of the prototype, and it's freely distributable. And what that means is your clients do not need to install Expression Blend or Expression Studio for them to see and actually review the prototype. In this case, all they need is a regular browser. So here I am, I'm in IE8 at the moment. I'm actually just going to use one of my favorite Windows 7 features and just use that keyboard shortcut just to pop that window to full screen. I just love those time-saving keyboard shortcuts. So here we are inside the Sketchflow player. Even at this early stage, you know, I've got my prototype here. I haven't finished designing the user interface. You know, some of those screens have just got sticky notes on, but I can still navigate through the prototype using the Sketchflow navigation right here in the Sketchflow player.
And the other thing we can see is that the same Sketchflow map that we had in the Sketchflow application is present here in the player so that our customers can actually get a high-level walkthrough of the application as well as navigating through the details as we expect them with the application itself.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And with the Sketchflow map being down here on the screen, as we go through the application in a minute, the client always understands exactly where they are in the application flow. So let's just see how this works. Well, at the moment, I'm on my logon screen, and from that particular screen, I can get to one other screen, the check-in screen. So when I click on that, my design service updates, and now I can see I can get to 2 screens from that particular screen. So very quickly, the client can start to get a feel for the flow of the application. Let's just go back to that original screen. We had that text box that we added, and I can just type directly into that. We added the password field as well, and when I type into that, you can see that it blanks out the text. So again, even though these are sketchy in style, they work exactly how you'd expect them to work, so the client can get a really good feel for how the actual application will work. And remember the logon button? Well, we set that so when we clicked on it, we'd go directly to the check-in screen. So let's try it. I click the button, we move directly to the screen. It just works, it's fantastic. So let's carry on through the flow of the application. Here's the succeeded screen we created a little bit earlier. There's my sample data. Here's the list box, and the list box works exactly how you'd expect it to work. I can click and select the data as well within that list box. And already you can start to see how valuable it is to have an interactive prototype. You can really get a feel for how the app will actually work. Over on this side of the screen, we've got a couple of sliders here, and you can see as I move these sliders, they're actually changing the size and the shape of that box over there. And Sketchflow gives you total flexibility. Some of these screens I've got a lot of detail on, like this one here, and others I've literally just got a sticky note. So it's really flexible and very, very easy to use.
Absolutely.
So just carrying on through the flow here, let's just go back a screen. This is the checkout screen that Joanna and Rick will actually be building a little bit more a little bit later in their session on Blend 3. And again, you can see here that all of the controls are real, so we can interact with the text boxes, the radio buttons, and also the combo boxes as well. The final screen here, this was the logout screen. Again, we set that button to actually work when we click on it, so let's just see what happens there. There, we navigate straight back to that initial screen. And what we actually use there to build that navigation is a brand new feature in Sketchflow and Blend 3 called Behaviors. What Behaviors allow you to do is actually add that interactivity to your project without writing any code.
John, I have to say, I love that these designs look like something I would draw, but they behave like something I would write code for.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah? So John gave us just a little taste of Behaviors, but Joanna, I understand that you'll be giving us the full course dinner about all the benefits that Behaviors can offer design and development.
Yeah, that's right. Behaviors are really easy to use for designers, but they're also a really powerful tool for developers. They give you, design-ready interactivity and production-quality code.
Well, we'll definitely look forward to hearing more about that. But John, I understand now we're going to see how easy it is to collaborate with Sketchflow.
Absolutely. Obviously, showing the prototype, well, that's one side of building a prototype. Getting really good feedback from your clients is something else that's really important. Getting that in a contextual way is really useful for the designer. So let's just see how Sketchflow can help us get feedback from our clients. So down here in the Sketchflow player, I have a feedback window where I can actually type in feedback for each individual screen. So in this case, I'll say this looks pretty good, because it doesn't look too bad. But obviously, I might want to make some changes to it. And I can actually use either the pen tool or the highlighting tool here to draw directly onto the design here and start to indicate to the person using Sketchflow what changes I'd actually want to make to the prototype. So very quick and easy to use. And then to export this, I literally hit the export button and send that feedback back to the person using Sketchflow. And they can view that feedback directly on the design surface within the design environment. So I think this is a good time to hand back to Tara, and she can introduce us to our clients today.
Absolutely. So today our team will be made up of Joanna and Rick, as well as 5 volunteers from our audience who all work in the field of interactive design. Can I see my volunteers? Hello. So you all have your laptops, and in a moment, John will be sending you the prototype for your review.
It is on its way.
Perfect. Thank you, John. Now, we're going to give you guys a few moments to look it over, type your feedback, and we'll check in on their progress after the break.
NBC was faced with a singular challenge. How do you take 2,000 hours of live video, 3,500 hours on demand, and put it on digital platforms? Silverlight delivered this near HD experience. I mean, it was the equivalent of what you really would expect to see on television in a smaller platform. We did 10 million hours of video consumed, and of that 10 million hours, people were watching it for an average of 27 minutes at a time. And it's just staggering.
Welcome back. Let's check in with our review team and see what they thought of John's Sketchflow prototype. Hello, and what's your name?
Hello, my name is Eddie Yip.
Hello, Eddie. And how easy did you find it to offer some feedback here?
Oh, I think it was really easy, and I think it's great because we could really work out our interaction and design and give feedback before we even start coding.
And what kind of feedback did you offer John here?
Oh, just some minor placements. I think, you know, I thought maybe we could move the buttons down a little bit and add a cancel button and a back button, but gosh, it sure looks pretty cool.
Thank you, Eddie. And let's hear from you. Hello, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Gavin Leader.
Hi, Gavin. And do you agree with Eddie back there? Is it pretty easy?
Oh yeah, very much. I enjoy giving feedback like this, and I would enjoy receiving feedback like this as well.
So what did you think of John's prototype?
It was good. I have a couple minor changes here. I thought that these items here could be dragged and dropped into the right panel. The right panel, I'd like things to be more left aligned, and I don't see the need to manipulate things width-wise.
And Joanna and Rick, how is your review going?
Well, it's very helpful to see the design at this stage. You know, we have a few tweaks we'd like to suggest to make it work really well, and we've sent those to John already.
Perfect. Well, if any of you haven't sent your feedback to John, please do that now. And John will let you take it from here.
Great, thanks, Tara. Well, let's see that feedback right within SketchFlow. So all I need to do now is come back into SketchFlow. I'm going to open up my feedback window here, and literally I'm just going to go to the folder where I saved the feedback, and here it is. So let's see what the audience have been saying. Hopefully they've been quite kind. So what's happened is I've loaded in that feedback, and down here in the SketchFlow map, you can see some additional icons that have appeared. And these little light bulb icons are indicating that there's some feedback on these screens. As I roll over one of these little light bulbs, you can actually see who's given feedback. So let's go and have a look at this screen and see exactly how this works. So over in my feedback panel, I can see who's given feedback on this screen. Joanna's given a little bit of feedback there. Let's have a look. Yeah, it looks like Joanna wants drag and drop enabled in this part of the prototype as well. Thanks for that feedback. Let's have a look at a couple of others. Gavin's feedback. Oh yeah, he wants to have this area over on this side of the screen made a little bit bigger with drag and drop as well. So drag and drop seems pretty popular. So it looks like I've got quite a few different things just to fix on this prototype before I hand it over to Joanna in a few minutes' time. Before we finish with this part of the prototype though, I just want to show you my favorite time-saving feature. And that's the ability to create the project documentation right within SketchFlow. So what I'm going to do is literally export this out to Word.
And you know, John, working at Lab 49, I've worked on so many projects where we follow an agile, iterative approach. And what that means is that we're constantly updating the software and developing new versions of it for our customer throughout the project. So the documentation, being able to keep up to date and just generate that right from within the tool is a fantastic way, because otherwise it's way too expensive and time consuming to keep updated as you go.
That's right. I don't think people really appreciate how much time it takes to create the project documentation when you're building a project like this.
It's just a killer feature.
Thanks. And this is what... Yeah, I totally agree. And as we come into here and have a look at the document, we can see that it's pulled up the name of the file there, it's created a table of contents, and also listed out all of the individual diagrams that we're actually using within the document. There's the SketchFlow map. As we scroll down the document, you can see all of the individual screens right here within this document. So literally, it's just taken a few seconds to create a skeleton document that we can then fill out all that extra detail and hand it over to the client.
John, that was amazing. You made all that documentation, and I did not see you type a single word.
Not one.
Wow, I'm blown away. But where do we go from here?
Well, how does back to the drawing board sound? You know, that first SketchFlow prototype, it was so quick and easy to produce that. I think we've got enough time to produce another one. We're going to use SketchFlow in a very different way, though, this time. My designer's actually been producing some pen and paper sketches that I'm actually going to bring into SketchFlow and make them interactive.
And the fantastic thing about pen and paper is it's a great way to sketch interfaces. They're very inexpensive. You can show them to people in any format. The problem is they're not very interactive. It's really difficult to show things like motion. And of course, you can't use data binding on pen and paper, right? So with SketchFlow, we enable actually you to continue using pen and paper and get the best of that. But at the same time, we can add to it with the features that SketchFlow provides.
Well, let's see how that works right now. And you can see as we look at this particular SketchFlow map here, we're using it in a very different way from that first prototype. We're actually presenting 4 different ideas to the client within the same prototype. So let's look at the first idea we've got here. Well, in fact, it's a blank page. So let's go and find the scan that we just brought into SketchFlow. And literally to add this into my screen, I literally just double click and it pops into place on the design surface. Let's go to the second idea we want to present. Well, this looks like it's got a tabbed interface. Now, a tabbed interface would be very difficult to show to the client using traditional sketches because you can't really animate them. But that's exactly what we're going to do here. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to come up to my states panel. I'm literally just going to add in a couple of transitions. The first one we'll call open, and the second one we'll call closed, or closed even. There we go. And what we see here at this point in time is I've got the closed state selected, and this is what I want the tabs to look like when they're closed. All I need to do now is basically tell these tabs what I want them to look like when they're open. So I'm literally just going to select one of the tabs and then move it across the screen to where it should be when it's open. So we just move that across to the other side. That looks like it's in about the right place just there. And now when I click on these transitions, we can see exactly what those tabs look like, open and closed.
Yeah, but still, it's a little bit choppy when you're moving between open and closed state. Well, with Expression 3, we've got the ability to use these new easing functions that allow us to just, with really just a few clicks of the mouse, take advantage of really some very sophisticated motion functions. So all we need to do is not worry about the timeline, not worry about keyframes. We can just click, click, and all of a sudden we've added really a whole nother level of polish.
That's right, I've not been in the timeline at all, and this is a great new feature in Silverlight 3, and look at the difference now. When we look at those transitions, there's just that... That's great. It's just that additional bit of texture that brings the prototype to life there. The final thing we want to do for the clients like clicking directly on prototypes. It just allows them to understand them much better. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. I'm going to allow the client to click on this area of the prototype and actually trigger that transition. So I'm just going to right-click on that and say when the client clicks there, let's play back the open transition. Then we're going to move to the open look and feel there. And we're going to say when the client clicks over here, we're going to trigger the closed transition. And that's it. Let's see what this looks like in the Sketchflow player again. So as this opens up, we're using the Sketchflow player in a very different way this time. The client can actually look at these 4 different versions of the same bit of the application and very quickly compare and contrast and make some really good decisions about what direction they want to take the application in.
And one thing that we're showing here, which I think is a very interesting use of the Sketchflow player. But previously we saw that the Sketchflow player can be used to demonstrate a single prototype application workflow end-to-end. Here we're using it to actually show them multiple different versions of our application concept and let them navigate on their own to whichever versions that they feel like looking at. We can delve more deeply into any one of them and actually mix the 2 applications within one Sketchflow design.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to show here. So this is exactly what the client would see. They could look at the first version of the application here. This is the one we just added a few moments ago. You know, it's okay, but it's not my favorite, so let's go and look at the others. The second one is the example with the tabbed interface. And I can click directly on those tabs, and they open and close here right in the Sketchflow player. Now, what's really nice about this is these are just a couple of sketches and a little bit of animation. It's incredibly fast and easy to create these prototypes, very cheap, so you can create a lot of them, and the client really gets a good sense for how this would actually be if we build it into a real application. So let's just go and look at the other examples we're giving to the client here. Here's the third version. Again, just a very different way of looking at the same information, but again, the client really can understand how it would work just by looking at these simple animations. And the fourth version is actually the option the client went for in the end. And you can see we've gone for this really advanced and interesting control method here, this circular control. So again, to really demonstrate that to the client, we used animation.
And again, this is a really sophisticated use of the Sketchflow concept. Not only can we design out individual controls and screens, but in this case, we're actually sketching out the entire experience of working with this application. You've got the hardware shown, and actually the way that the user would work with the mouse wheel. You've got a little bit of a sketch about the user interface itself, and even some little notes around the side to kind of give some context and show really the meaning. So it really shows the overall user experience and not just narrowly the software.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to give the client that extra context is really helpful for them to understand the prototype.
Absolutely.
So the final couple of things we did here, we wanted to illustrate to the client how you'd move from this view of the application to a more detailed product view. So again, I literally took the designer's original pen and paper sketches and just created a very simple animation. And again, the client gets a really good feeling for how this would work. The final thing we wanted to do, though, is really get buy-in from the client. So to do that, we wanted to provide a slightly higher fidelity prototype. And that's exactly what we did on the final screen here in the SketchFlow prototype, a refined version of that animation. So when I click on this, we get the same animation, but it looks much higher quality. And at this point, the client was prepared to go with this project and signed off and gave us the green light. You know, SketchFlow, it's fantastic. It's allowed us to build these prototypes incredibly quickly. We could build the overall flow of the application and then start to add in the detail using those sketchy styled controls and also some real sketches. We're also able to get feedback from our client and view that feedback directly on the design surface in SketchFlow. Of course, even at this stage where we've got a higher fidelity prototype, the client can still come here and go, well, actually, we need to make some changes. They can pick up their pen and they can start drawing directly on the high fidelity prototype and providing some feedback. So again, it's really flexible the way it works. And of course, the final thing SketchFlow helped us with is, I think you described it as a killer feature, was creating all of my project documentation for me.
Well, let's thank John and Daniel for all their great work. Thank you. We'll see you two at the end of the show. And next up, Joanna and Rick have prepared the next course of our digital design feast after this break.
Silverlight allows us to really hook into our existing services and infrastructure that we built across the enterprise without any extra replatforming, reinvestment in that infrastructure. And it provides our agents better functionality at the end of the day.
We have different agents around the world that have different settings, they have different OSs, they have different browsers. With Silverlight 3, it doesn't matter anymore. Using Silverlight 3, we can basically streamline all these infrastructure endpoints, consolidate it into one, where we have one location that's supported, maintained, and basically supports all our reservation centers around the world.
So, Joanna and Rick, at this point, the prototype has been approved, and now we're going to use the versatility of Expression Blend to bring it all to life.
You know, I like to think of Expression Blend as a virtual spice rack where I can pick and choose all of my design ingredients.
See, it's a cooking show, folks. Yeah. Well, just so there aren't too many chefs in this here digital kitchen, I'll let you get to it.
All right. Well, now that John has the user experience and the flow of our PC gaming website all figured out, let's get started on the production phase.
Let's do it.
When we started designing Blend 3, we asked people what they wanted to see in the product. And one of the top requests was better integration with the design tools that you use today.
Absolutely.
So of course we listened. And in Blend 3, we added direct import of Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop files. Well, our designer's been busy creating the production graphics for our website in Photoshop. Let's just go ahead and import those and see what they look like.
I'm really curious here because I personally use Photoshop for almost all my comps. So getting the importer right is something it's really important to me.
Well, here's the file.
Let's check it out.
Let's check it out.
Yeah.
So here you can see a really great interactive preview of what the file will look like when it's imported. Over here, you can see that Blend has kept all of the layers. This file doesn't have just bitmap layers. It has text and vector as well. Even my layer mask and vector mask that are associated with each layer, they stay right in there.
Very nice.
I can turn on and off individual layers just by clicking here, and you can see my preview updates automatically. If I wanted to get a better look at any particular part of my preview, I can just zoom in on it. It's pretty cool.
Very nice.
If I select multiple layers, I'm given the opportunity to merge them into one on import. And this is a particularly useful feature for Photoshop files that use blend modes across layers.
We use those all the time.
Well, I think this looks pretty good at this stage.
I agree.
So let's hit OK.
Now, it's important to reiterate, when we import this, the layers are still going to be editable in Blend, right? The path, the gradients, the text, because I don't want to keep going back to Photoshop if I can do it with just a couple tweaks. So is that the case?
Exactly. And you know what? I'm going to show you that in just a second.
Great. Fantastic.
So here's the file in Blend. And you can see it's added all my objects for me into the object tree. as well as all of the necessary files right into my project. What we're going to do is we're going to take this flat static graphic and we're going to turn it into a working master detail page. You remember that circular control that John's been working on in SketchFlow? That's going to display right here. And the selection in that control is going to drive what's displayed in these thumbnails, as well as the info in this overlay. For the moment, I kind of want to work on the background graphics, so I'll hide this layer for now. I want to edit the gradient, and with the new gradient tool, I can simply drag and drop that right on my design surface.
Great. Now, just to reiterate, that's the gradient that we imported from Photoshop, right? You didn't build it native in Blend.
That's right.
That's great.
I can also edit the color right on the design surface as well. You see, this fits a little bit better with the overall design of the application. Yeah, and you know, I did all of that without having to go back to Photoshop. So the next step is to create that master list. And to do that, I'm going to use design time data. In Blend, I can create new sample data right in Blend, or I can import it from an external source. In this case, I already have an XML file for the project, so we'll just import that.
Now that's really important for us at Synergy because with our Look First approach, we start designing with the experience. And a lot of times there might not be a database at that point. So the ability to come in and plug in to mock data is very, very important.
And even though we've just imported this file, you could still edit it in Blend.
Great.
Yeah, let's say you wanted to change some of this text or add, adjust the number of records, you can do that right in this dialog. So to add my data to my application, I simply drag and drop it to the center layer, and Blend creates a list box for me. Now I'm going to tell the list box to go ahead and auto size and fill up the area. This list box is now directly bound to my data source. Each of these blocks here is actually a list box item, and within each item, I have a text block for each of the fields in my data that I added.
That doesn't really look like a circular control,
It's true, it's true. At the moment, it doesn't look quite as good as what John's been designing. However, my designers provided some styles for me to use, and these are available to me in my resources panel. The resources panel is the place where all my styles, templates, colors, everything for my project is displayed. So the first style that I'll apply is going to change the look of the list box as well as the font style.
There we go.
Yeah. And the next one is going to take this regular list box and turn it into that circular menu.
Great. So this formatting now is much better, but it's still fundamentally a list box, right?
That's right. The style only changed the layout of the items. It's still a list box underneath. And I can, if I want to, even change what the content of each individual item looks like. In Silverlight and WPF, it's really easy for me to change the look of any control just by editing the template. Let's go ahead and look at the items template for this list box. You can see here, I have a text block for each of those fields that I added from my data. And if I just don't want all those, I can delete them. My list box updates right on the design surface immediately.
Nice.
I think I can make this look a lot better by just editing some of these layout properties. So I think, the margin really needs a little extra there. And wow, that's starting to look pretty cool, don't you think?
Actually, honestly, it looks a little too... Wait a second. Wait. That looks developers gone wild right there. Can you show us how maybe a designer can come in and fix that for you?
Okay. Well, luckily my designer has created the final style for me to use, and I can add that. I'll just go out of my template here, drag and drop that final style. And
nice.
Yeah, that does look better. Okay.
I'll clap for that.
You'll notice that it's also applied the right colors to the items that are menu titles. So I have blue for software and red for hardware.
I noticed that.
Well, we finished our background graphics and the master list, so all that's left is to fill in the details. So let's turn that back on. And what we're looking at here is the stand-in graphics that my designer created in Photoshop. And what we're going to do next is replace those graphics with a direct binding to my data source. To do that, I'll go to my data panel and choose Details Mode. And what Details Mode does is it tells Blend to add all that magic that allows the selection in my circular menu to control what data is displayed for the details. So as I start updating these graphics, I'm not just replacing one graphic for another. I'm creating a direct binding from the data to the image. I can also go over here. Let's update this logo. And I have this text here, and I know, my designer is very particular that text look exactly as specified in the Photoshop
Don't
prompt.
mess up the text.
Absolutely not. So let's just see what happens.
Nice.
Exactly the same font, style, color, formatting, all of the attributes that my designer specified stay, even though this is now driven by data.
It's dynamic and data bound, but it preserved that look, so that's great.
Let's finish this off by updating the price and the title. Well, there's one more graphic that I want to attach to my data source, and it's this one here in the middle. And in Blend, it's really easy for me to get a complete list of all the objects below my mouse. And by doing this, it makes it really simple for me to update this graphic, even though it's way down in the tree.
You know, John, I've been using Blend for a while now, but these little productivity enhancements that are in there where I can right-click quickly to select something in the tree, it's those day-to-day little fixes that have really impressed upon me the maturity of this release. I really like it.
Well, that's really great to hear, because in Blend 3, we spent quite a bit of time trying to make it easier for the designer to edit directly on the design surface.
You can really tell.
Yeah, great. Well, there's just one more thing I'm going to do, and that's just to tell this content layer not to get in the way while I'm selecting the list box. So let's see what this looks like.
Great. It is impressive how quickly it seems we've gone from a static comp to what looks like the beginnings of an interactive application. I mean, that was pretty fast.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, a few minutes ago, this was a flat, static Photoshop comp. Now it's live, it's animated, and data-bound. I mean, this is starting to look a lot like that rich experience that John's been creating in SketchFlow.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much, Joanna. I agree. It is amazing that you can start with something that might otherwise be just a flat image file, but in Expression you get all these different pieces that you can work with, continue to edit. It really is fabulous.
Great.
So I understand that later in the show you'll be showing us how to add in that shopping cart functionality that John prepped at the beginning of the show. And I hear you also have some gameplay for dessert?
Just a little bit.
Well, I never miss dessert, folks, so I'm going to ask you to stick around. And after our break, our Expression Web team will be joining us.
For the Stargate Universe experience, there's a couple of technologies available in Silverlight. PhotoSynth allows you to take a number of photographs of a scene and then stitch those photographs together into a 3D experience. And what Deep Zoom is going to allow us to do is to zoom in right in on some of the detail.
It's a unique opportunity for people to really walk around the sets virtually on their computer from home.
Welcome back to the show, Ed Meadows and Janine Warner. Welcome, guys. Now, just to refresh everyone's memory, Ed here is from the Expression Web team, and Janine is an author, consultant, and the creator of DigitalFamily.com. We're very glad to have them. Now, we spent a lot of time today so far talking about creating these really rich experiences, but for them to be successful, they need to work inside a web browser. In fact, multiple web browsers, yes.
Well, thanks, Tara. You know, that's true that you often need to launch a rich internet application from a web browser, from a standard web page. And Expression Web excels at making your pages look great on multiple browsers. So how about we get started on that web page?
Great.
Okay, so I'm going to go over here to my Windows 7 taskbar, and I'm going to fire up a web page here. And what I've got here is I've got a page with a nice layout, Gears of War from the Microsoft Studios site. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to drag and drop my Silverlight video control over here into my layout. Expression Web's going to prompt me for a video file, which I'll scroll down and grab trailer.
So far, so good.
All right. And I'm going to pick a source profile, and since I know that folks are going to be watching this on the internet with broadband, I'll pick a high quality profile.
Okay.
And let's pick a player skin that matches our layout, say pop-up. And then we'll set the width of our video to match our layout. And we'll set a stretch mode so that the video fills the extent of the player. Okay, so now the video is being encoded by Expression Encoder, which is included with Expression Web.
Cool.
And then let's do a preview of the page so we can see the video working. And there the video is loading. So that's how easy it is to drop in a video with Expression Web. And don't forget that it's just as easy to drop in other rich media, such as Windows Media, in Expression Web.
Wow. Well, that was pretty cool.
So, you know, another common task that people undertake when they work on websites is making their websites look great on multiple browsers. Now, that could be different versions of the same browser or different browsers.
Yeah, okay. Designing for different browsers is the bane of every web designer's existence. You know, my students complain about that all the time. You get your site looking perfect in one browser, and it can completely fall apart in another one.
Well, you know, we've heard the same from our customers as well, and so we added Super Preview to Expression Web to make that process easier. So what Super Preview does is it gives you a picture of how your web pages render with different browsers. In fact, let me show that to you right now.
Now, wait a minute. Is this kind of like one of those browser emulator sites where I type in a URL and then I wait a few minutes or days to find out that my site looks terrible in 4 out of 5 browsers anyway?
No, it's not a web service. It's local, so you don't have to wait.
Huh.
So let me fire it up here and I'll show you what it looks like. So right now what it's doing is it's loading the rendering of the 2 web pages. On the left I have my baseline browser, which is IE6. On the right, I have IE8. And of course, I can pan around these pages and I can zoom and whatnot and look at the page. And here I can select the element. You can see there's a difference here in the box models, and Expression Web gives me size and position information down here in the left-hand corner of each of the renderings. And by the way, I can also view PHP and ASP.NET pages here with Super Preview as well.
Really?
So I can also click on this DOM button down here and I can see the document object model for the browser. So what this shows me is it shows me the HTML elements tag name, it shows me the position, any styles that are applied, as well as its height and width. And so I can go in now with all of this information and quickly make a fix to my code.
Wow, that might even save me some time. Thanks for the
Janine.
demo, Ed.
Thank you, Ed and Janine. I love the one-stop browser compatibility shopping. That's just great. When we come back, we'll take a look at how Expression makes adding some tasty e-commerce functionality to your site quick and easy.
By adopting Silverlight, we were able to focus more on the core business logic, and we could put more of our efforts into the functionality of our application. Silverlight was giving us everything we wanted.
Our flagship product, KBB.com, serves about 13 million visitors a month, which is a substantial amount. Some of the cool features that we offer now are the ability to quickly and easily and very visually see what cars are the best and worst in the class that you're looking at.
We ported our Silverlight application to Surface and gave the audience a view of the future and playing with Surface and school information.
I think maybe we had the wrong video. Like, we did cut it down, and then we ended up uploading the wrong video.
It's not bad, though. Todd, our developer, was in the early creative concepting meetings. You know, hey, man, is this going to work? Here's what we're thinking. What do you think? And, you know, it actually made us a bit more of this than, you know, traditionally, which is that, until the end where it becomes that.
QQ is the most popular IM in China. We are developing a web-based QQ using Silverlight right now.
We kind of jumped right into code. The design team made some wireframes, and I kind of built the app just using, you know, black and white boxes.
We're literally able to take those wireframes and hand them over directly to the development team to start building an application. And at the same time, we can start a parallel path with visual design.
At the very beginning of our show, when John and Daniel made quick work of whipping up the framework for a shopping cart? Well, let's see how Joanna and Rick can spice up John's SketchFlow prototype.
That's right. We'll be integrating the shopping cart that John built in SketchFlow into a Zune upsell opportunity we've added to our PC gaming website. So here's our website all finished off, and you can see that great circular control that was designed all working. And when I click on this Zune, I go into a Gears of War Zune upsell area. Did you see how these panels animated in?
I did. Can you show that again?
Yeah, let's check that out.
So It's a little perspective there, too.
Yeah, we're using 3D transforms to animate the panels in. And it's a really subtle and interesting way to bring in the information.
That's really nice, even with the Zune device, correct? You can spin that around?
Yeah, you know, the Zune is a 3D projection of a real Zune, and I can spin it and look at it in all its details.
See, that's amazing. I like that because normally I would have had to do that in a PNG sequence if I wanted something, but now with projection, it's great. So
that's right. The projection property in Silverlight 3 allows me to do that, no problem.
Absolutely, and the transitions as an experienced architect, it's these types of subtle animations and these little extra spices you can put in that really, really enhance the application, and Blend seems to make that really easy.
It does, and you know, we can add some animations and effects to the shopping cart when it's opened and closed, which is going to happen when the user clicks Buy Now.
Let's show that.
All right, so let's see how we can add that functionality to our application and take advantage of effects and 3D transforms in Silverlight 3. So here's my application in Blend, and in this project, I've taken full advantage of the States panel. States are simply an easy way for me to access a particular screen or configuration of my application. So for example, I have one here that shows the details page, and another one that shows that Zune background we were just looking at. Well, I already have states created for when my shopping cart is open and closed, but I want to see the shopping cart graphics in context with the Zune screen that we were looking at earlier because it's going to be overlaid on it. And I can do that by simply clicking here and pinning it visible.
Nice.
Pinning is such a useful feature because it allows me to layer up the visuals of different states right on the design surface without changing any of my runtime properties.
And giving you that visual feedback right away.
Yeah. These graphics were created by our visual designer, right in Blend, using its vector drawing tools as well as the default Silverlight controls. But I'm going to hide these for a second so that we can see what's going on in the background.
I see you're using the new blur property, which
it's
is
the
really
blur
nice.
Effect. Yeah. And I wanted the background to be a little less important, but still visible, and the blur effect was a great way to make that possible. We'll turn back on our graphics, and you'll notice that right now, when I open and close the shopping cart, it's just showing and hiding the panel. And as you know, it's often the transitions between states that really make a compelling user experience.
Absolutely. Those transitions are really the thing that set the mood of the application, of how you get in and out of states. It really adds personality to it.
Yeah, and in Blend, it's so easy to create and preview my transitions right on the design surface. I just click here to turn on Transition Preview. And now you can see I have a really nice smooth animation for when the shopping cart is closed, but I also want to have one for when it's opened. And I want that to occur after the blur effect is applied. Now, since I want my transition to animate in over time, I'm going to be working with the timeline. And to make that a little easier, I'll switch to my animation workspace. And this is such a useful feature in Blend 3, workspace configuration. It allows me to set up and save multiple workspace configurations and work on them any way I want.
That was a nice surprise for me, too, that ability to save these workspaces exactly to how you need it. That was a really nice feature.
Okay, so I want to be really accurate with my timings. I'll zoom in on my timeline, and you can see I've already specified that I want my shopping cart to appear about here. All I have to do now is add my 3D transform to my object, and I just want to add it to these graphics. Well, to access that projection properly really quickly, I can just start typing here, and the property inspector filters to just what I want to edit.
Now, again, this is another one of those productivity enhancements that you're finding all over Blend, being able to type and it automatically filters based on what you're typing. And you guys are also using this in other panels as well now with Blend 3, right?
Yeah, we've added filtering capabilities to the projects pane as well as the asset panel. Let's go ahead and specify a little rotation here. And then a little bit later, we'll reset it back. To see what my transition looks like, I just changed states.
Yeah.
You know, I think I need a little texture or something to bring this to life.
A little more spice.
And I think the Silverlight easing functions are really gonna, do the trick here.
Let's check them out.
Yeah, let's do that. So all I do is go in and select that keyframe I just made and click here. And look, there's all the easing options that Blend provides for me.
Give you the visual display.
Yeah, I think, how about this one right here, bounce?
That'll add some.
Pretty good. Press play in the timeline this time to see, and that's all right.
Closer.
But I think I want it to be, a little more springy.
What else do we have?
Yeah, I think this elastic one,
yeah,
elastic easing function looks great.
Cool. There you go. It's a little more fun.
Yeah. So now that we have the shopping cart appearing exactly as we want, I'm going to finish off the application by building the actual structure of the shopping cart. So to do that, first I'll go and change back to my design workspace and go up to base state. Now, I still need to see my shopping cart graphics, so just pin those visible. I'll be using a list box to populate my shopping cart. And since the asset panel filters, it's really easy for me to grab that list box and draw one out.
Again, very nice, easy to get to it.
Well, I need some data for this list box. So I happen to have some here that's created earlier. I just drag and drop that, and Blend hooks everything up for me.
You still need to style it, though.
I do, and I have styles from my designer. And they're, again, right in my resources panel, but this time I'm gonna use the right-click functionality to apply those styles. And the reason is when I use the right-click, it filters the available resources to only the ones that are appropriate for my selection. And it makes it really easy for me to get the right resource, even in a project like this that has so many different ones.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate that because that really is a big time saver. Right-clicking, because you're building applications, you get so many resources. Right-clicking on a list box so it automatically filters for you those for the list box. It's, again, one of those little things in your day-to-day life professionally really makes Blend shine.
And you know what else is also really great about working in Blend is that it uses the same solution file that my developer uses in Visual Studio. And I can make sure that nothing's accidentally overwritten or edited because source control capabilities are built right into Blend.
For us at Synergy, that really was a killer combo there because there is the workflow, the designers and developers working on the same source code, but as a professional company, you really need that source control. So having workflow plus source control baked right in was just really, really nice.
Yeah, great. Should we see what we built?
Let's check it out.
Okay. Go into my Zune page.
There it is.
Click Buy Now. There's our transition.
Nice and easy.
Looks pretty good.
Really nice.
Thank you, Joanna. I have to say, it is so impressive to see everything that Expression is capable of. It's fabulous.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, did you get that game you were working on finished?
I did. I have a few final things to fix. Do you want to see?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, let's check it out. Well, it seemed appropriate that while customers were looking at products related to games, that they should be able to play a game. Let's play this game. Well, that's not very good because I can't control the paddle yet.
Needs interaction.
Yeah, it does. I'm going to use behaviors to solve this problem. Well, John used behaviors, actually built-in behaviors, when he was creating the prototypes. I'm going to use behaviors, but a custom one that my developer created for me in Visual Studio. All I do is drag and drop the behavior, follow mouse behavior, right onto my paddle, and specify that I want it to follow the X position.
You know, again, as an experienced architect, we talk a lot about developers or designers traditionally, but there are a lot of us who are both. And behaviors are one of these great new features in Blend 3 that I'm really excited about because it seems like I'll be able to use that level of control. I normally would do this procedurally, but now there's a way I can do this while at the same time having a way that I can share it with others, other projects or other designers or developers. So I'm really excited about behaviors personally.
Yeah, great. Well, I think that people might want to play this game even when they're not connected. And hooking up Silverlight 3's out-of-browser support really couldn't be any easier. I just go right in here and choose Enable Application Outside a Browser. Now, I want to, see the whole experience, the out-of-browser experience, so I'm just going to tell it to go ahead and preview it in the browser for now.
Yeah, okay.
So let's see what the gameplay is like.
And please show, again, that out-of-browser experience, because that is a new feature, and it is a really, really neat feature, so I can start writing web applications or games that you don't need to be online, and you can install them to your desktop.
Yeah,
right?
I'll show you that,
okay.
But I get to play the game first a little bit.
Go ahead.
Okay. So as you can see, my paddle is following my mouse and working great.
Nice.
And I'm getting pretty good at this game, I think. So, okay, let's check out that out-of-browser experience. I just right-click, install. I'm going to apply this to my desktop as well because I've included icons for my own branding that'll show up in the title bar and on the desktop.
Nice, very easy.
That's it. And now it runs it as it's going to run on the desktop.
Great, great.
Yeah.
Can we see the icon on the desktop?
Yeah, we can. But you know what? I want to get ready because I'm going to send, now that we've added this game tie-in experience, I want to send a quick video of it to my creative director. And I can use Expression Encoder screen capture to do that. It's going to make it really quick and easy.
Okay.
So let's get everything else out of the way, huh?
Yep.
Well, in Win 7, I love this feature. I can just say everything else go away, and there it is.
Let's shake it away.
And here you can see, there's my custom icons for my application. All right, so let's load up Expression Encoder Screen Capture. And it makes it really easy for me. I can define a region that I want to record, but in this case, I want the whole window. It's great, easy for me to grab that. Press record. I get this countdown, which makes it easy for me to be ready right when the recording starts. Play the game. Okay, I'm so good at this, I'm just gonna have to let it, go out. Now press stop, and it's gonna load that preview for me right away.
Now this is Expression Encoder, but a screen capture, right? Because I know Encoder, but I've never seen this before.
Yeah, this is a new product that we've added in Studio 3.
Really? Okay.
So let's play that back, see what it looks like. Notice that screen capture has no problem keeping up with the gameplay. Every frame is recorded.
And that's always a problem.
It really captures that experience, I bet you're pretty excited to try this out now that you've seen it.
I absolutely would like to try it out.
All right.
All that control right in the design tool, and it's all backed up by production-ready code. Pretty cool. Stay with us. We'll be right back with a final segment of our show. You guys are great.
Oh, all-nighter, huh?
All done.
How?
See you Monday.
Welcome back. Once again, I want to thank our teams. They've made this episode of The Visual Kitchen a delicious demonstration of how the Expression products give you the tools and ingredients you need to create truly extraordinary websites. First, we heard from John, who took us through the capabilities of SketchFlow.
Yeah, we use SketchFlow to design the overall flow of the application before turning that into a real interactive prototype. We then allowed our clients to actually use that prototype and feedback comments on that prototype using the SketchFlow player before finally producing all of that amazing documentation using our export to Word functionality.
And Joanna demonstrated the range and versatility of Expression Blend.
That's right. We imported our production graphics with Photoshop and created an animated data-bound application, and then adding interactivity to our game was as simple as drag and drop.
And finally, Ed showed us how well Expression Web does with multiple web browsers.
That's correct. And I also showed just how easy it was to bring in video into your web page and encode it. Simple drag and drop of my control and dropped it on my page, and the video worked very, very well. We also showed how Expression Web makes it easier to troubleshoot your web pages for multiple browsers.
Well, of course, I want to give a big thank you to our industry professionals, both on our demo teams and on our review team in the audience. Thank you so much for your help today. We hope the taste of Expression and Silverlight you had here today encourages you to go out and learn more about how you can use the Expression products to bring your rich, tasty creativity to the world. Thank you for watching. And here they are, the final boxes. Head over to Microsoft.com/expression and buy them today, or download the free 60-day trial version.